Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Film Pundits where we are reviewing episode 8 of The Strain. My name's Adam Hlavik and I am joined here as always by Mr. Eric Ratlian.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
I'm so great.
You excited?
A little bit.
Yeah?
A little bit.
So we're going to start talking about just giving our general opinions on the episode and then we'll go into spoiler territory and then just kind of wrap things up at the end for you guys.
Yep.
So, general thoughts, Eric. What'd you think?
General thoughts were this one had some fun action in it. We finally had some people teaming up, which was nice. There was a bit of filler in this episode to kind of just fill time, where I feel like we could have maybe used that time to catch up on a couple of other people we haven't seen in a few episodes, like maybe Ephraim's wife and child. We haven't seen them in a little while. I would have rather cut to them and maybe seen some other people instead of having some of the scenes that felt a little fillery. But overall, this episode, it was fun. Some cool stuff happened, and it's ramping up. Every single one of these episodes, it's just the stakes keep getting higher and higher, and it's fun. And this was definitely a good episode. And how do you feel?
I loved it. I loved it so much. Like you were saying, it was kind of a filler episode, so there were some things in there that I could have done without, or things that could have just gone through kind of quicker.
Yeah.
And just got through and maybe shown characters that we haven't seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so good to finally see the team come together with some surprise additions that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So happy to just see finally this core group. Now it's like, okay, we know what the mission is. We know what we need to do. We're ready to do it.
Yeah.
Let's just freaking go and execute this mission and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So you want to get into some spoilers now?
Yeah, let's do some spoilers.
Go ahead and click on right here on the computer screen if you'd like to skip to the end to get our general wrap-up and opinions on the episode as a whole. We won't talk about what we just talked about. And we are going to get into spoilers. So,
let's
spoilers.
do it.
So we start off right where we ended pretty much last time. Abe's laying on the ground. He was just kind of almost defeated by the German before he...
Eichhorst.
Yeah, Eichhorst. Before he jumped away and did his little kitty cat grab on the side of the subway and managed to sneak away. And we get a little bit more information about the vampires from Abraham, which is kind of nice. We find out that so far all the vampires that we've seen are non-matured. After a month, he goes on to say later, it takes about a month or so for them to become fully matured.
Which is something that I feel like we kind of did talk about, because we kept wondering why Eichhorst was so much more advanced.
Yeah.
So we figured that it was probably some kind of maturity thing, that they had to kind of get to that level.
Yeah.
But even though we do find out there's more to Eichhorst than just maturity.
Yeah, because we also find out that the Master also has the ability to pick and choose who he gives back, like some of essentially their normal life and their intelligence and their previous knowledge.
A supreme struggle.
Yes, he's able to give that ability back to the people he chooses. So we find out that is something the Master can also do. And the Master, I was thinking we were going to see in this episode. We heard so much about him right at the beginning, but we never ended up seeing him, which I was a little disappointed by.
Yeah, you only hear of him. You hear his voice, but you don't get to see him.
Yeah, and really the only thing we see of the German is he escapes. He tries jumping up a subway platform and realizes, he can't.
Injured.
He doesn't have the same kind of hopping skills he does before. He can't slam dunk a basketball anymore, which I'm sure he's very sad about.
Yeah.
But we realize he's in a little bit of pain, and then he just sort of kneels down and blinks his second eyelids, and that's all we see of him for the episode.
Which I was like, wait, we did this whole flashback so we can see him bat his eyelashes?
Yeah.
That's it?
I didn't get, was that supposed to tell us that he's just like all the other ones, he blinks sideways just like them. I thought we had seen him do that before.
Yeah, I thought so too.
But maybe if we haven't, then that's kind of what it was signifying, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we're supposed to think, he's not quite as strong and supreme as we thought he was.
Right.
He's injured and he's blinking like the regular ones.
Right. Which I thought was kind of cool to see a vulnerable side to that character, because ever since he's been introduced, you always think he's on this other level, which he is.
Yeah.
But things like silver bullets can obviously injure him.
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, and so then we go back to Ephraim and the gang, and they start heading out of the subway. And of course, all these people start coming in right as the battle ends, and they start leaving. It's like, where were all these people 10 seconds ago? It's just convenient still at all these points in time where things are abandoned when these crazy things are happening.
Yeah.
And people just keep going on their lives as normal. But then Ephraim starts talking about, this is why UV light affects them, because it doesn't necessarily, it's not because they're vampires, it's because they have this disease in them, and UV light, essentially, it kills bacteria, and it's killing the bacteria, the worms that are inside of them. That's what actually does the damage, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's more to it than just sun hurts vampires.
Exactly.
You know, it's kind
There's
of
a science behind it.
Yeah, I kind of liked that. I was like, that's kind of fun. That's interesting. You know, we're getting a little backstory on vampires as a whole.
Well, plus it's like it's going to be one of those things that's going to become such a big plot device later on in the show. You know, they have to defeat the Master somehow. They have to defeat this army of vampires somehow, and they can't just rely on silver bullets all the time. They need some kind of concentrated thing that will take them down, which they use to their advantage.
And so after that, they all decide, we need to go to a medical supply store so that we can get some UV lights to take these suckers down. And so they break in through the back window, and sure enough, when they get in there, they meet up with our exterminator buddy.
Vasily!
Vasily is back, that silly little Vasily, in there, accusing them of being a looter, and then he just says, well, I'm a looter, so you guys, you know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a fun little scene, and as soon as he shows up, I'm like, yes, they're going to team up with him. Finally. And, but he comes off as a total jerk. He's like, no, all these lights are mine.
Yeah.
You can have 3. And then Nora comes in and she's like, well, we'll take 6.
Yeah.
He says, okay, fine, I can deal with 6. So, you know, the tough guy act, he kind of drops it a little bit when Nora comes in. But then they just ruffle around a little bit more, and they go outside, and Ephraim and Nora and Jim head off to the gas station to grab some snacks and see what else they can find.
Supplies,
while Abraham sticks around to talk to Vasily and tries to get him to team up with him. And of course, we get the same thing. I work alone. All right, fine.
I'm Batman, essentially.
Yeah, I was expecting that. Nobody was not expecting that. But then, of course, when he shows up again later to bash in the head of the vampire that's going after Abe, of course, we're like, okay, yeah, they were obviously going to team up. There was no thought. It was
inevitable.
No. If it didn't happen at the end of this episode, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like nobody.
It's unavoidable at this point.
Nobody thought he wasn't going to team up with them. And so then all hell breaks loose at this gas station, essentially, and they just become surrounded. And luckily, somehow the fates aligned, and the hacker girl just manages to be in this same gas station at this time with who I'm assuming is like her friend.
Yeah.
At first, like when I watched it, I kind of wasn't paying attention. I was like, was that Nora she just gave money to out of nowhere? I just saw a dark-haired girl talking to her, and I'm like, what just happened? I had to rewind it to realize it was somebody different. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's rude.
Well, I wasn't paying attention for 1 second. And so I was like, oh, okay. Whatever, this is a friend of hers, and she kind of lets go a little bit that she's somewhat responsible for the cell phones not working, and the card machines not working.
Yeah.
And
she keeps dropping little hints. She's like, well, they're not. These machines are not working right now. This system is not working. And her friend's like, what exactly did you do?
Yeah. And so, of course, while they're outside battling to save the gas station, Jim gets nicked on the cheek, but tells everybody, it's okay, I scraped myself when I fell to the ground. So, you know, for a second, we have some hope. Okay, maybe he didn't actually get nicked by it, but then when he's in there cleaning it off, it becomes pretty apparent that wasn't a scratch, that was a cut. And
some tongue got him in the face.
Yeah, we have a pretty good idea that he's screwed.
Yeah.
And so when they discovered the one worm crawling through his face, I wasn't too surprised. You know, I was like, well, yeah, he's screwed.
Yeah.
But then Ephraim all of a sudden decides, no, he's my best friend. I'm going to try and save his life, and slices his cheek open, which
cuts the worm out of him.
Yeah, pulls it on out, and then burns it with the UV light.
Yeah. Which is cool because then that's finally they have that realization, like, okay, these worms are
defeatable.
They're defeatable, and this is like this is definitely the main cause of this whole viral infection.
Yeah, and they think, well, if we can get it right when it happens, when we get that one worm before it reproduces inside the body, we can save people. Exactly. This is the solution. We can stop it before it ever gets anywhere. But unfortunately, they find out a little bit later that they were not so quick. Too late, mostly because if Jim had just straight up said from the beginning, I'm actually cut from that thing, then maybe his life would have been saved.
Yeah.
But they find his back crawling with him.
All the
which
worms.
was, all of the worms just moved on into his back. And, all of a sudden, Ephraim really cares about him. And can't do anything. And I was full on just expecting Abe to just whip out his sword and cut his head off and end the conversation, because he seemed like he was getting impatient.
Yeah.
But luckily Vasily came in and just had the mindset of zero fucks given, and just bam, 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 you dead, Jim.
And it was after a lot of banter too, because Ephraim didn't want to kill Jim. They wanted to take him to a hospital, see if they could treat him.
Try chemo. Try
Exactly. Anything that could kill these worms.
Yeah.
But Abraham was very insistent that there's nothing you can do to save him. And even Jim himself was like, you know what? I'd rather die than turn into a Strigoi, into a vampire.
Yeah.
Just end my life now. I don't want to deal with the transformation. If I happen to get loose, I could go after my wife, go after my parents, go after you guys. It's better to just end me now. And after much resistance, Vasily was just like, you know what? Screw this. Caps him.
Yep. Yeah. So
there was a little tension there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And I was a little surprised to see that, and pretty much one of the most well-known actors in the show was taken out in the 8th episode.
Yeah,
so
which I kind of like, because it's like he didn't stick around because of who he was. He stuck around because of the character he played.
Yeah,
it's like they didn't change that to make it fit the show. It was like, this is the story. This character dies, or maybe he doesn't die, and that's it.
Yep, it's like sort of like Game of Thrones rules, where it's like, hey, just because you like this character, you've gotten to know him, doesn't mean they're going to stick around.
Yeah.
Which I was totally okay with, too, because I'm tired of Jim's flip-flopping back and forth between sides, and, oh, I'm in trouble, I'm going to help you, forgive me, I'm being real nice to you. I was done with it. Get him out of the way. He was just a pain in the butt at this point. So, and he went out in about the best way he could have gone out. So.
Yeah, he went out in like a self-sacrificial sort of way, so at least it was something redeeming for that character. He didn't just die and wasn't forced to kind of be killed. He wanted to be killed. Yeah. So it was a good redeeming moment for him.
Yeah, I mean, some other little stuff happened while they were in that gas station. They had the car that they thought they were going to be able to fix to get out. Yeah. Which, at first, as soon as Vasily came in, he's like, well, one doesn't have an engine and one doesn't have tires. Wheels. And I was like, you put the wheels on, like, immediately I come up with that. But it's
I'm not a car guy and I know that.
Yeah, but the hacker girl's like, why don't we put the wheels on this? Like, come on, really? If you had just come up with it to begin with, you would have had them on in time to actually leave in it.
Yeah.
But no, you
or I would have not even said anything. I would have been like, well, one has an engine, I don't know what's wrong with the other one. Like, just take these in there and put that there.
It seemed like he had most of the tires on later on, and yet nobody would just kill the two zombies that were, or the two vampires that were in there so that he could get the car. I said
wrong
zombies.
show.
Yeah, well, whatever. They're undead. With blood all over their faces. Same thing. But, I mean, they could have just killed those two vampires to give them, a few extra seconds to get the last couple wheels on, and then they could have left in that. But
then you gotta remember, they also had to, take the car from the thing, bring it down, and they don't know if it's running, and all that kind of stuff.
That's a good point.
So there's a lot more risk, I feel like, with trying to get that car, throwing all your dice and hoping that car runs. When it's outside, they have a bread truck, they know runs because the bread guy's there, stacking. Which was the other part that kind of was like, you have the guy from the bread truck driver, and then the friend of the hacker girl, and they're like, screw this! We're making a beeline, we're getting out of here. Bread driver gets attacked, gets killed. The girl makes a run for it and gets away. You don't know what happens to her, but I'm like, okay, clearly something scarier than just normal people who are covered in blood. I wouldn't go out there. I'll stay here with you guys. And then you have was it Hassan, the convenience clerk,
who just stayed
in his cigarette box and just let himself get killed. I'm like, wow. Really?
Yeah. I mean,
that's how you choose to end your life? In a convenience store? Okay.
And it was like he was another character who we got way too much story about. We didn't get a lot, but what we did get was too much. I don't get, if this guy's just going to kill himself and stay in the box, why do I care? If he's not going to join them, why do I care that he's like, I'm keeping track of all this money you owe me, you have to pay. Why?
Yeah, I feel like they tried to make that character like a comedic relief to help ease the tension of what was happening. So he would make jokes about who's gonna pay for all these bills, and had everything that they were taking written down. But I didn't need it. Would have been fine with him just running out there with the bread truck driver and just getting killed too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it was just sort of lots of stuff happened, but not much really important happened in that gas station. We saw a little bit of the hacker girl. She was when she was pouring the alcohol out for the Molotov cocktails, drinking a little bit, okay, she's kind of upset that she kind of caused this a little bit. She doesn't really know that she's that responsible necessarily, but it's like, and she offers Ephraim a drink, and he has that moral decision of, why not? The world's about to end. Should I do it anyway? But he sticks to his morals, and he doesn't drink any, which is interesting. We see that he's still got that ability to hold out and not do anything.
One thing I did like about this episode was, even though not too much happened, we got to learn more about these characters, and we got to learn a few more things about kind of what's going on in Abraham's mind, what his strategy is to try to take down the Master.
Yeah.
And it was cool to like see these characters interact with one another, because I feel like this one moment in this series is going to be the defining moment that really spearheads everything forward in terms of, are they going to be able to work together? Are they going to be able to, how are they going to function as a team? So I think this episode really showed all their strengths and how they can really help each other, especially in the end when they're trying to get out of that convenience store.
And it was interesting at one point, Abraham tells them these things, and Ephraim is still uncertain. He's like, really? That's how? And he's like, when will you learn to trust me and listen to me?
Dude, trust the old man. He's not stupid. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he hasn't never said you wrong yet.
Exactly.
So stop doubting him. Just because it sounds ridiculous doesn't mean it's not
Look,
true.
the situation that's happening. The whole situation is ridiculous. At this point, like, I'd believe a monkey.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll stop having to deal with these arguments of Ephraim not believing Abraham anymore. Hopefully that's done with, and this was the last we'll hear of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other real big stuff that happens is one thing that kind of pissed me off again is when they go out to the gas station, the gas pump, and all of a sudden the credit card machine works again. It's like this show is so on and off again with cell phones work, cell phones don't work, credit card machines work, credit card machines don't work.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's at the convenience of the situation, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's real annoying at this point. I mean, maybe if the hacker girl was like, look, use this secret PIN code and that'll let you figure it out. And then that lets everybody else know, oh, she knows what's going on with this.
Like, when the episode ends, nobody has any idea who this girl is.
Yep.
Nobody.
So that would have been a nice little thing that would make a little
hint.
But I feel like at this point, the writers just don't care at all whether or not we know what's going on with these. They're just like, oh, it works now, it doesn't work now, who cares?
Yeah.
So I think that they're more of just not caring at all about that instead of trying to work it into the story better, which I think it would have worked a lot better.
No, and I think in the next episode, it's going to definitely be, the episode will probably revolve partially around this girl.
Yeah.
Because now she's the fish out of water. Nobody knows who she is. Nobody knows what she's all about.
Yeah.
And maybe she starts to kind of drop hints as to, like, what's happening or what's going on. And they're going to start questioning, well, how do you know the internet doesn't work? Like, how do you, like, did you contribute to this in some way? Like, what's happening? So I think it'll be like, I think she'll be like the next Jim.
Yeah.
Where she's going to be the character who is involved, but doesn't know exactly what's happening, but knows enough that then they're going to try to use her, like, okay, well, you got to fix this. Like,
you think Ephraim's going to punch her in the face also?
Well, could happen. It could happen.
Yeah. But now I'm wondering, we'll wait to get to the end. There's a couple other things. The one line that I liked was from Vasily when they're walking out, and it was from Ephraim, and Ephraim says to Vasily, "Hey, if you get stung by one of those things, I'm gonna pay you the same courtesy you gave Jim." And all Vasily says is, "That's the spirit, Doc," and keeps running.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that's
there you
the
go.
spirit. That's the spirit. Yeah.
Vasily, he knows that what you have to do to take care of business.
Yeah, in order to survive.
When they get in that bread truck and there's a vampire in the way, he runs them down and turns on the windshield wipers. Yep. And that is exactly the mindset you have to have in this sort of a situation, which is why I love that character.
Yeah.
Because he's
so
exactly
awesome.
what they need. As much as Abraham is the person that knows what to do, he still seems a bit a little uncertain, a little hesitant when it comes to people and their lives still, and he's also frail and slow.
Right.
But Vasily
is just the
executor. He knows what to do. If anything, I was hoping Abraham was going to hand his sword over, because it would do a lot more good in Vasily's hands. And because he'd be able to just chop those heads off way quicker than Abraham.
And Vasily's pretty smart. I mean, he starts to figure out when he's questioning Abraham, like, what weapons are you using? And he's like, oh, silver bullets and this, and then he's like, okay, silver bullets, silver sword.
Yep.
He's putting it together really quick. He's like, okay, these are the supplies we need. This is what we need to get. Like, we need this. We need all this in order to even have a chance at beating anything. Yeah. So he's definitely he's the brain. I feel like he's going to be kind of the brain of the whole thing, whereas Abraham will be kind of the grand master. And
he'll have the knowledge.
Exactly.
But Vasily will know how to put it all into motion and in effect take out all these vampires.
And then, Ephraim and Nora, I feel like they're going to be the strategists to kind of I feel like they're going to try to figure out the right way to go about it.
They'll bring the science to it.
Exactly, and Vasily is just going to go into it, like, directly to, like, the solution.
Yeah. So that's going to be nice.
Yeah.
One other thing before we get to the very end. I was a little surprised that they all managed to make it into that bread truck. That whole crazy battle, which all hell's just breaking loose.
Yeah.
There's fire here.
And they're using like UV lights to try to get the
and it's like the vampires are
away.
just sort of standing there, not doing anything.
Yeah.
And it could have been cut a lot quicker. I feel like the fact that they were dragging it out so much, they left so many of their scenes going on. They should have cut it a lot quicker, had them get in that truck a lot quicker.
Should have been really quick, like 1, 2, 3,
but they just spent so much time in all these shots. You got a lot of time to see vampires just standing there, not doing anything.
Plus you're like racing the clock because they're trying to blow up this gas station. So you need to get in the truck right away, get the hell out of there, because as soon as that thing blows, like you blow with it.
Yep.
So a lot of moments like that.
And it was interesting to see the level of maturity these vampires have reached already as well. Breaking down the door with the dolly cart and taking out the power to the gas station.
Yeah, they're crawling up the power lines trying to take the
already
power
out, it's only been like a few days maybe, and they're already really starting to gain that intelligence that they need to start outsmarting people essentially and being able to take them down. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think I really like about the Strigoi is they start off, they kind of almost are like zombies in the beginning, but then they mature and they become like these other characters, and they become more powerful, and they're more in tune with what's happening. That's a scary thought to think that like something that you're fighting you think is dead is potentially more intelligent than you in terms of how it creates the strategy to get to you. Yeah, it's a little frightening, and they're fast. Like some of them are runners, some of them are not, but it's a little scary.
Yeah. And so then that's about all the important stuff that happens, and we're left with them driving away in that bread truck off into the city. Yeah. And I was just left thinking, okay, are they headed to all the family's houses? Is Vasily going to go tell his father and mother? Is Ephraim going to go straight to his wife and child? Is Nora going to go to her mother? But maybe her mother's probably locked in Abraham's
right, that's right.
Basement still. So I'm sure she's safe down there. But
maybe.
You know, all the other families of these people, I mean, who knows if that's where they're headed next? And, which, it's like, as much as that would seem logical to the characters, I really hope that they don't do that, because I like action. I don't want more, hey, families, come with us. Now we got to hide you somewhere. Now you're just going to create drama for the rest of it, and makes it difficult for us to actually go out and hunt down these things that we really need to take care of quickly. Right. But instead we're going to waste time doing all this other stuff, which, I mean, yeah, you love your family. You're going to want to save them. I'm sure that's what they're going to go do next. But, I kind of hope they'll do something a little more fun.
I think the only thing I'd be fine with them doing is if they were to round up all the families at once and be like, look, this is the situation. Shit is on fire. Yeah. You all need to go together and get out of here. Get out of the city. Because right now it's only a New York thing, really. Yeah. So as long as they can get out of New York, then they're fine. And hopefully, this team will be able to contain this virus and hopefully not let it spread into other parts of the country or the world. So
I mean, they did dump that one body into the water.
Exactly.
So who knows what's going to happen with that? Yeah. But I mean, this show is just going to become insane if it spreads to the entire world. It's going to be so vast. Yeah. I have no idea where it's headed.
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited.
I read the first volume of the graphic novel, and Eric is just about to start reading it, and it's already past the point of where this show is. And
past the point? Well, the show is
past the point of the graphic novel.
Of the first one.
Yeah, the first volume. So it follows pretty close to what you see in the TV show. So I'm looking forward to picking up the next volume and just seeing how it follows where we are now and seeing how far it goes ahead, if it goes ahead at all. But
you said it was about 4 episodes worth in the graphic
I think it was about 4 or 5 episodes,
yeah. So the second one should take you probably right up
5 through 8 to where we are now, maybe. Yeah.
So that would be interesting.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I think that was about it for spoilers. If we'll get into our general wrap up, and I mean, overall, there were a few annoying things. They definitely stretched out stuff that they should have just cut a lot quicker and maybe thrown in some other characters instead that we've been wanting to see. But overall, this was definitely a solid episode. We found out some information about these creatures that was nice to have, and we finally got that team up that we've been hoping for. Yeah. So I mean, I think I'd probably give this episode like an 8.5 out of 10 or something like that. It was definitely a real solid episode, and so far, I mean, it's been a great season, and they definitely spiced it up with this episode.
It's definitely one of those shows that like started slower.
Yeah.
And then when it started to go, it went.
Yeah.
I mean, last episode we had those like crazy hooded vampire hunters, and we have like yet to see those guys brought into the story more. I mean, there's so much stuff happening.
And so, since you just spoiled some stuff from last episode, we'll have to go into our general wrap up again.
Well, I mean, by this point, if you haven't watched the last episode and you're watching this now, then come on, watch it in order.
Maybe just put up a little spoiler alert right before you say that on the video or something.
Whatever.
But yeah, I mean, definitely solid episode.
Yeah.
Once again, I'll just say 8.5 out of 10, just in case you want to cut it a little different to get past that spoiler too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, solid episode. Some cool stuff happened, and overall, I definitely, this was another solid episode in the show, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I have to agree with everything that you just said. So yeah, I'd also give it like an 8.5 out of 10. Just like whatever I gave the last episode, I would give this.
Yeah.
A little bit more exposition, slower parts, but
it came with some action. So
yeah, and this team has to kind of get used to each other somehow, so you can't really do it in one scene. It's got to be somewhat of a progressive thing. So I'm glad with how it turned out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's everything. So if you want to catch The Strain, it's on FX every Sunday, 10 p.m. It's the first season, 8 episodes in. So catch up. If you have not caught up yet, you can catch up also on FX's website. And yeah, that's everything. So if you guys want to follow us on our social media, you can follow us on youtube.com/thefilmpundits. Also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all under The Film Pundits. And Eric, where can people catch you?
People can find me on Twitter at Thanks for the View with a number 4 in the middle.
Cool. And you can find me on all social media just under Adam Hlavik. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And please let us know what you thought of this episode. Leave a comment down below.
Yeah.
Like the video, share the video. Let's get a lot of people in on the conversation, and let's see how people feel about this show and how they feel about this episode.
Join us in watching this show. Become one of us. One of us. One of us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Later.